Now we shall discuss about the Indian rivers and the water resources. Before going into the water resources, let us see what are the Indian rivers. The entire Indian river system is known as drainage system. It does not mean the flow of drainage system. It is like complete flow of all the rivers is known as drainage system. We have mainly divided the entire rivers into two major categories. That is the Himalayan rivers or the peninsular rivers. The rivers which are originating from the Himalayan belt or which have their source of income of water from Himalayan region is called as Himalayan rivers. These are also known as perennial rivers because they have the flow for the continuous flow of the year. Throughout the year they flow continuously. When it comes to the peninsular rivers may have the seasonal impact on them because in summer season and in the winter season they may be in dry conditions or the level of the water may be less when compared to the rainy season. Now let us discuss about the Himalayan rivers. Where did they origin? The Himalayan rivers, as we have the Himalayas on the northern part, the entire three major rivers which are in the Himalayan northern part, that is like Indus river, Ganga river and the Brahmaputra river, are having their origins from the Himalayas or almost nearby to the same places. Let us see the Indus river origin. It is starting in the Kailash near Tibet and it flows or enters into India near the Jammu and Kashmir region, and then it has the 5 tributaries which are flowing only 80% in our country and 20% they are flowing into Pakistan. The 5 major tributaries of Indus are Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and the Satluj. Coming to the Ganga, the famous or the heartland or the major river for us, for Indians in the North India, that is also known as Indo-Gangetic Plain river, which is influencing the Indo-Gangetic Plain, that is, it is having its origin at two places like Bhagirath and Alaknanda. They two join at a place called Devaprayaga and form the origin of the river Ganga for us. And this also having its origin from the Himalayan region, and it has many new tributaries like Son, Kosi and all, which are flowing through Uttar Pradesh and moving towards Bihar, then some parts of West Bengal, and it's also having its influence in the Punjab region, Haryana region. So it has major region covering here nearly 3 to 5 lakh hectares of water is shedded to the crops using the Ganga belt. And the most important river is that is Brahmaputra, which is originating in Tibet with the name called Sangpo at a place called Chimayang-dang. The name place is Chimayang-dang. It is from China region because Tibet is occupied and controlled by the China, so it is having that name, and is also establishing near Manasarovar lake. It is also starting at the same place where the Indus also is starting, and it flows for in the east, towards the east and the south of the Tibet. It flows for nearly 640 kilometers and joins towards the Lodsjong place, where it gets connected with the Arunachal Pradesh region, and in Arunachal Pradesh it is called, in some place it is called Siang and in some place it is called Dihang, and finally when the Dihang comes and joins with the Lohit, it gets the final name Brahmaputra. This is the origin of the Himalayan rivers. We have 3 major Himalayan rivers, that is Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra. Almost all are originating from the Himalayas, from the same place that is nearby to the Manasarovar lake. Now moving on to the peninsular rivers, we have discussed about the Himalayan rivers. Moving to peninsular rivers, we have the major rivers which are starting from the Western Ghats, moving towards the Eastern Ghats and falling into the Bay of Bengal. We have seen the condition like in the Western Ghats, we have the Western Ghats are elevated and the Eastern Ghats are not much elevated as that of the Eastern Ghats. We have a variation there, and it is slightly tilted towards the eastern side, means it has a bending shape towards the eastern side. This is one of the major reason why the rivers which are starting from Western Ghats flow towards east and fall into the Bay of Bengal, except the 2 rivers, that is Narmada and Tapati, which are in the upper part nearby to Gujarat, the Satpura region. They flow towards westwards and fall into the Arabian Sea. Now let us see here the major rivers of peninsular India are Krishna, Godavari, Kaveri and the Mahanadi. Krishna, Godavari attributes to be the largest rivers, and when compared to them also, Godavari attributes to be the largest place, which starts its journey at Trayambak at Nasik in Maharashtra region, flows towards Andhra and joins towards the Bay of Bengal. Even the Krishna flow starts in Maharashtra, flow towards Andhra and joins into the Bay of Bengal region. Kaveri gets originated in the Karnataka region, flows towards Tamil Nadu borders and then falls into the Bay of Bengal. And Mahanadi, it starts from the Orissa region and then flows towards the eastward and falls into the Bay of Bengal region. Only the 2 rivers like Narmada and Tapati flow towards westward and fall into the Arabian Sea. To understand the mechanism of the water use, we have to remember the water cycle. Water cycle is nothing but the inflow and the outflow of water is must to have water there. Water once gets out, and if it does not get any inflow back, then it does not have any impact on it. Like water is not a non-renewable energy, it has to be stored, it has to get from the other form first. As we remember the water cycle, water gets evaporated because of sun, then moves into the clouds, then forms into the cooling, then from cloud it reaches back again to the land. to the normal levels. This is a water cycle. It should be there. Inflow and outflow should be there, and it is a continuous process. If this continuous process does not happen, it leads to the disaster of the water levels. Now let us see what is the inflow here. Inflow of any water content feels that precipitation. Precipitation may be rain, fall, hail, dew, snow, anything, which the water gets evaporated up and moves up. Then it forms into the clouds. Then it starts into the surface by form of a rain, or which reaches the ground, and then it reaches to the underground flow. If these three are occurring, then it is called inflow. If these three are in a continuous process only, we get the water level in the underground level, on the surface, and in the atmosphere you have the water vapor presence, which is nothing but the water presence. Coming to the outflow. Outflow again has two parts, evaporation and transpiration. When the evaporation and transpiration together are happening, it is called evapotranspiration. How does this happen? Evapotranspiration happens like evaporation from the lakes, rivers and seas happens directly, and when the transportation process is going on, like when water is being transported in the form of rivers moving from one place to another place, it gets diverted and the fertility of the water gets, the quantity of water gets lessed up and then moves on to the other places. Because of that, the water content also reaching to the levels also gets down. So this is called evapotranspiration, like evaporation and transportation. The other major issue which has to be addressed is the surface flow plus groundwater. What is the surface flow? When the water which is flowing on the land level is called surface flow. When the water is flowing on the land level, like in the villages and all these places, when it is flowing, it appears like a streams or small rivers. When it is accompanied by a rain, the flow becomes like a big river or it appears like a lake. But after some days it disappears. The surface flow is getting disappeared. It is getting diverted. The people will draw water from the lakes and rivers also in the villages, which is a common scene. Because of that, water gets dried up. But when it comes to the groundwaters, sometimes when the surface flow is moving on, the water it gets penetrates into the ground and gets into the settled into the interior places, and it turns as a groundwater levels. The groundwater level increases when the surface water is high or the rivers are flowing through it, or when we have heavy rains. But once the surface flow is not provided sufficiently, automatically the underground, it does not get penetrated into the underground levels, then automatically it leads to the less ground level of water. Water. How are we using the water in our day-to-day life? As we all know, water is used at various levels. Like in agriculture, for everything we need in agriculture water, for threshing, sowing and everything, we need to cultivate the water supply for the fields, then only we get the output of the agriculture. Here we are using the agriculture in a productive way, because we are using the water for agriculture in a productive way that leads to the fertility of the land, which leads to fertility of the crop, where we get a good output which is required for all of us. When it comes to excessive use of water for agriculture or not supplied for sufficient amount of water, like we supply water in an open tub and we leave it for openly for some time, and later we leave it for cutting of the connection of the water supply, then it leads to the supply of the fields as per our knowledge. But it is better to use the drip irrigations or the other sources where the water does not get wasted at all. Then a drip leads to the drop of the water leading to the particular plant or a crop, then it provides sufficiently for us. This is one of the best alternative how to use the water safely and at the very less amount of the convenience. Then domestic purpose, we need from day one morning as soon as we get up onwards till we sleep, we need water for various activities, the major activities for our physical needs, then for the washing of the clothes and all these things. Domestically we need for cleaning of the houses and everything, we need the supply of the water. This we are using in our day-to-day life, the domestic purposes. Then if we have animals in the villages, those who wash their animals, those who think for the animals to be bathed and all these things, for that purpose also we are using the water. That also is most required for us, because animals also are part and parcel of our day-to-day life. Coming to the most important one is the industrial use of the water. The water is used in industries for larger purposes, like for washing of the chemicals, for using of the machinery, for using of the iron ore, for everything, for heating, cooling and everything we need the water supply and all. When the water supply is required for them, they get some chemicals mixed to that water when it is washed off and taken off, and sometimes they add the same water released into the lakes or the rivers. After some years of detailed study, we came to the conclusion that the water which is having more amount of carbon should not be mixed with the waters which are in the rivers or in the seas. Why it should not be mixed? Because if it is mixed, it is going to affect the health of all the other people, those who are staying in that particular region. When it is in the village region, when they are going to mix that one, all the village people may get the health issues. This is a major thing we have to remember, that the industrial use should be remembered when they are adding or releasing the wastes. That should not be added into the common place where all the other people are going to access it, or like when small children get, they may get the other health issues, or the animals may die or fishes may die, which may cause environmental imbalance for us. So the water use is done at various levels, and we are exploiting the water continuously at various levels. When we dig a bore well, we are digging it to the deeper extent till where we can get it the aquifer deeper to the maximum benefits from it. This can be done only when the extreme drought conditions, and that also will be replenished when the extreme heavy rains or good year comes for us, so that the underground water levels will be raised up. But we are using this in the normal condition, and we are not having any control on the bore wells, like how much to be squeezed or how much to be used from the bore wells. We have common phenomena like day to day needs should be sufficient from the bore wells. We are using it, we are owning it. The government does not have any authority to control it. This all should be addressed and used properly, then only water can be saved for us. Let us discuss the issue of the Tungabhadra region, which is a major attraction in the South India when it comes to Andhra and Karnataka regions. It is a major issue of dispute. I think we all have seen the Karnataka people and Andhra people fighting for the issue of Tungabhadra water resources or the Kaveri water issues. Now let us see here, the catchment area of 71,417 square kilometers of area falls 57,000 kilometers falls in the Karnataka region. Remaining region falls into the AP region, where the portion of rainfall is very less and is completely dry. So should we ask for the water levels of Tungabhadra or not? Obviously we generally ask for the water levels because we don't have the proper supply of water. At the same time, we have to remember that 57,000 square kilometers of area or catchment area is required to be supplied water from the same Tungabhadra region. So Karnataka also have the same equal rights to ask them to supply of the water here. And coming to its capacity of the Tungabhadra dam in the last 50 years, it has been sufficiently come down. It's 3,766 million cubic meters where its storage capacity was, but it has come down to 849 million cubic meters because of various reasons like silt, soil erosion, debris, and because of the major issue which is like mining issue. There are no mining standards maintained at various levels in the Karnataka region, especially at a place called Sandur, where the mining water and cleaning and everything is released into the same lakes, and the same water is carried with the soil, then soil erosion, then the other dust and all, which brought into the dam, and the dam was completely filled with the layers of the soil and all these things. And when it comes to upper part, only we see the water levels upper part, and the soil which is settled in the down parts of the dam has to be removed clearly, and it's not possible to remove because when the upper parts are filled with water, and how can we remove the soil? It is very difficult and it's a challenging task. We have to remove the Tungabhadra dam issue. But at the same time, there are various issues, like we have some issues like we have larger units of 27 large units and 2,543 small units which require daily supply of water, and the multiplying number of the cities and the towns in the areas around Karnataka have merged the need for the water for their day-to-day needs. They take gallons and gallons of water daily without any limit for them, because they need for their larger factory units to sustain and to get the water supply for them. And once the water supply is required, they don't think of the other issues and whether it is to be developed or not developed. And we have the major issue in 1984 when the industries are releasing the molasses into the lakes, and these lakes got spoiled and many of the fish were killed. That was the first time when the issue was addressed that the industries should not release their waste molasses which are contaminated into the freshwater bodies and spoil them unnecessarily, and the environmental balance should not be disturbed at all. So the Tungabhadra region, though it is in the major proportion of Karnataka or in the Andhra region, it is still a standing point of controversy between Andhra and Karnataka region, where it has disputes of the establishment of the boundaries. At the same time, it satisfies needs of both Andhra as well as the Karnataka region. There are some issues to be addressed clearly like silt, soil erosion, debris, and which are the mining laws where there is no proper mining system and all should be addressed clearly, so that the dam could be preserved for the future purposes, because it is providing various needs. Many lakhs and millions of people are working or living in the needs of this Tungabhadra water, so it should be saved, preserved properly. And the level of it is coming down. It's less like it's coming down very rapidly. It's from 3,000 it came to 800. Very soon it may come to 500 or 600, and then it's of no use, just like a small water tank. So it should be addressed very seriously, and we have to use it properly, and the water should be used valuably with a certain limits. And at the same time, the industry should not release their waste into the freshwater lakes and spoil the environmental balance. Rational and the equitable use of the water. How can we use cleverly or manage the resources which we are having limitedly, can plan well and use it and get the better efforts or better results? We have seen an example in Maharashtra at a place called Hiware Bazar. This is on the plan of the Maharashtra government, like Adarsh Grama Yojana. They brought this scheme to develop this particular village into a better place. The average, let us see the average area of this place is like it receives rainfall very less, just only 400 millimeters of rainfall. It is like a drought prone area. It is like dry land. How can we develop this dry land? The government has implemented some new schemes and plans and brought some drastic changes in this. Let us see them what they have. They brought continuous contour trenches. They control the private lands as well as the government lands, free grazing and all these things. And they checked continuously wherever there are trenches, there are gaps, they fill that gaps. Wherever there are continuous flow of the hills where there is a possibility of soil erosion, they made some contour bonds to block that one. They started the plantation of the trees, farms, grass to stop the soil erosion and all these things, and found some major steps. And then check dams were built to stop the flow of water at various places, so that instead of like when it flows through a dry land, the water gets evaporated to the ground levels. So whenever there is a heavy flow of water, they start to build the check dams there. Then percolation tanks. Percolation tanks means when there is a level of water filled with stones like porous stones and all, the water there is a chance of getting it into the down levels. So the land which are not capable of controlling the land to hold a dam, then they went it to the percolation tanks where we can store the water into the underground levels. Then we got many plantations. We got the plantations so that the climatic balance can be brought, so that we can get the good rainfalls and all. So like that they planned very well, and they brought serious rules and regulations strictly imposed on them, like ban on cutting down of the trees. Then free grazing is completely banned, and everybody should have a family planning for them, and they should have voluntarily come up and do this Ramadan for the development of the village. Like that they brought some serious rules, restrictions and some implications for them, and in a short period of time, like by 90s and all, they got some major achievements. It would be a remarkable things like crops. Earlier it was only 7 hectares in the summer season, it was raised to 72 hectares. It is not a small thing. It has 10 times got upper to the normal level. They received a sufficient amount of rainfall. Like in the climate they got the change, in the entire development they got the change. Here the major issue what we have is it's a drought prone area. Now it turned into a good rainfall place. So we can understand the issue that it is addressed very well. At the same time, the milk supply from that village, earlier it was only 140 liters per day. It went on nearly 20 to 25 times. It is like 3000 liters per day. So we can see the village has developed very well. If you manage your resources properly and carefully, you can reach to the maximum extent, and you can achieve some remarkable things. Like a village where it is completely dry land or drought prone land leads to a good rainfall place, where its small farmers and the marginal farmers, their day-to-day life activities have increased. They have developed, their personal incomes have increased, per capita income have increased. The area has brought good revenue source of income, a good place to live there, good rules and regulations are there. Coming to the negative points or the facts of the Indian context, that yes, the felling of the trees was not completely addressed, like we can't get it completely done, and that too coming to the free grazing, it is not at all able to be controlled by the people. Yes, there is a failure in some point, like the free grazing can't be controlled because poor people as well as the rich people have their influence on the grazing lands, and they go on cutting down that and bring their grazing cattle and get it grazed there. But of course they had a remarkable achievement here. So if we plan properly and use our resources rationally at equitable development, definitely we can reach to sustain extent that we can get some remarkable changes, where like a Hivare Bazaar would be a good example to address the issue of rational and the equitable advancements or developments. When we plan properly, and if everybody cooperates, the society plans something and government executes it properly, definitely we can get to some point of success where the remarkable changes can be noticed. The most important point here is the water as a common pool resource. Water is a resource of every person in the society, in the country, in the nation or in the world. Let us see here, the present day laws what we have for the utilization of the water is not like which are updated according to the present scenario. Earlier we used to use water at very low levels, and the time the ground levels of waters are very high, the sufficient supply of water was present, the population was limited, the sources were very good, the climatic conditions are in favor, we used to have good rainfall conditions, we used to have good years of rainfall. These all conditions were favorable when the water laws were framed. But now the present laws which we are existing right now are completely outdated, and they can't control the present usage of the water. This is one major problem what we are having right now. And the underground water levels is another major issue which should be addressed clearly. See, when we are taking underground level, suppose I dig a borewell at my house, I does not have like any limit in taking water how much I need, or like how many times I am using that one for getting water outside from the underground levels. For example, if I am constructing a house, I need water entirely from the underground water only, I take it, because there is no restriction on me and it is my own. The private individual owners are usually utilizing the water as much as they want and there is no restriction. Once the water in that area of which is drawn completely from the bore well, then it evaporates the entire groundwater levels which are in the surrounding areas, then it creates a problem for the other people in society. But I don't think it, because I have my own issues. In the same way, all the private individuals are thinking as their own points and their own stands, and everybody feels that everybody want their water share before somebody else want it, and everybody feels that water is a common for everybody and everybody have equal share on it. How much I feel I claim that I have a share on it, the same way the others also feel they have the same share on it. So automatically it leads to the contemporary issues, and now we are having many issues not only with water, then coming to the oil, natural gases, then oil like petroleum oil, crude oil are evaporated or taken up in the bulk amounts, and we are not thinking about the other future generations. Then coming to the natural gas or the electricity, where continuously we are taking and we are not addressing any issue or any point of time. And at the same time, for the governments also to come to the reality at the ground levels, government also can't control the entire things at a clear stand, because in my house government laws cannot permit me that. Can't they stop me? Will they really be able to stop me to get me water on by the groundwater levels, like day night or daytime or nighttime or whatever it is? They can't stop me because it is my wish. At my house they can't put every person to hold on me, like putting on the switch or offing the switch, because it's my own wish and my own property. In my own property, in my own lands, I can utilize the resources what I am owning with my own property of money. I can utilize them completely, perfectly according to my wish. So the governments also have very limited power on the personal properties of the individuals. On the overall interest of the society, government can keep some restrictions, provided that whether I will follow it or not. Most of the cases in India, we feel that most of the private individuals does not care for the government laws, especially when it comes to the restriction of the groundwater levels. It does not at all listen to them. Even the panchayats are not having the complete control over the local water bodies. There is an issue which happened in Kerala where is the reality fact, like it is having some controversial views. Like it is a place called Perimatti Grama Panchayat, where we have a Coca-Cola company established here. The Coca-Cola company is squeezing the entire water levels, and it came to such an extent that the local panchayat people, like Perimatti people, are not able to get the sufficient drinking water facilities for them. So the panchayat body has decided that we are going to ban the sufficient supply of water for Coca-Cola company. First, the priority is that drinking water is the primary resource or the primary priority of all the people of that Gram Panchayat. As a political institution, they have restricted the company to move on. Then automatically the private company have moved to the court. It moved to the high court. Both the parties moved to the high court. In one judgment, we got it favorable towards the people that water right is primary and it should be given to the panchayat bodies. At the second time, the additional session when they went to the second hearing, then they went to the favor of the Coca-Cola company. Then these contradictory views made them move to the higher authority court. Then they moved on to the Supreme Court. Even the Supreme Court, the court was filed is on January 2014. Still the case is on pending whether the issue of water authority should be given to the panchayat bodies or to the private companies which are owning a lands in the villages. It should be addressed properly. At the same time, the society should be maintain balance, and water is a primary source which is required for every person, irrespective of rich, poor, higher or lower caste, whatever it is. Water is primary source for us. We have to utilize our water resources very carefully. At the same time, we need industries to develop our day-to-day income and generation of the employment opportunities. So everything should be addressed carefully. Yes, water is a primary resource for every human being, must be taken care and utilized in a clever way, and it should be managed in a resourceable and in a better way, so that everybody gets the benefits. Not simply that I have my share and I squeeze everything before the other one else comes in. It is a really challenging task to distribute the water between the people and the other resources, but should be addressed by the government. Hopefully government will come with the new steps.